Okay, so the class that we've been referring to is what? What is the class name?
You said it yesterday.
Possibly, yeah. Well, what phylum is it? Which one? No. Yep, these are all vertebrates. So then the class is what? Now you can say that. Reptilia. Okay, so what are the two orders that we've talked about?
What was that?
What are two orders that we've talked about? Lizards are in the order what? Starts with an S. Okay, and if Sauria is the lizards, the snakes are in which order? Serpent, yeah, serpents, serpentae. And how many families of snakes have we discussed so far?
32.
Okay, I didn't know if it was one or two. Viperidae we had mentioned, as far as that's rather vague, because you could say diamondbacks, that's also vague. Is that on the eastern side or western side of this of the U.S.? And for the most part, most vipers will gather food how? What did we see yesterday? Their vision is actually really poor.
Weren't they sneaking down in like cracks and
They were. That's right. Yeah. So they've got these heat sensing pits, and they also use, of course, their Jacobson's organ to locate prey items as well. And then, what's true about their venom delivery system? In other words, what does the envenomating? Fangs, but what's true about those fangs? Are they permanently set in one spot? No, they are not. They are retractable, which you could say as they open their mouth, the fangs then will retract forward. One of the things that you'll notice is their prey selection. Their mouth is only so big. And with that being so big, they also don't choke over any of their food items. Got to be a reason how that happens. Well, the hinge ligaments on their jaw are now elongated. And what else is true about their jaw? Does it split sideways? Can it? Yes, it allows their skin to expand. But one of the things you'll see, it looks just like a simple tube that sticks out of their trachea. So as they're swallowing a prey item, that tube is still sticking out forward. That does not force them to choke on whatever it is they're trying to consume. Otherwise, when you look at a very large rat, for instance, or even some of these even larger snakes that will take out large rodents or even other snakes, they do not choke on that because of their I do believe it's their epiglottis is what you would call that. Okay. So we're past that. So the elapids, these are your cobras that we have seen yesterday. And there's something significant about these. Sometimes they don't even have to bite. They can do what instead? Cobras are known to do what from about 8 feet away? They illustrated that yesterday. Yeah, the spitting cobras are spraying, whichever way you want to look at it. Now, it doesn't say, okay, must be injected multiple bites. Okay? If their fangs are small, which they are, that's probably why they got to do that multiple times. But more importantly, when we look at sea snakes, these are probably the most venomous on Earth, but you really don't hear much about sea snakes. Well, there's possibly a multitude of reasons. Well, why would they be so venomous? Well, what's their prey item going to be, I believe? Comparing a fish to that of a reptile or the sea snake, why is that venom going to be an advantage for them? Right, because fish are much faster, so once you envenomate them, they probably don't have the ability to get away. Now, when it comes to humans, okay, why do you suppose we don't hear much more about people being envenomated by sea snakes? Possibly two reasons. One, maybe they didn't survive if you did that, but also probably the interactions. If you don't come across the animal, of course, then you don't have to worry about it. Okay? So I don't think the interactions are very common, and then would someone even survive being bit by some of these snakes? And possibility is maybe no. So that's why sometimes you could say that shark attacks go by unreported, because maybe the individual did not survive to report that incident. Okay, then the largest family, so we have Viperidae, Elapidae, Hydrophydae, and then when we say largest family, that means in numbers, okay? Because these snakes then are non-venomous. And that's why there's so many of them. So typically, how these animals will probably strangulate their prey items. They don't have that venom to inject.
Mainly, not mainly.
Yes, mainly. Yep. Okay. Then two other types of venom. A hematoxin would possibly have an effect on what, would you think? Because what is hemoglobin? Hemoglobin is actually your blood. So then if you have a hematoxin, that's going to break down the blood cells inside of the prey item, or you could say victim's body then. So there's actually one more on there, a myotoxin. What would that possibly have an effect on? Think about that for a moment. Myotoxin. Just guess, do you think? Because that also starts with an M. What would it have an effect on in our body? You'd think so, but it's actually muscles. Okay. When you say myoglobin, that's actually the pigment inside of muscles. So, yeah, you could say that those two do go hand in hand. All right. So that does it for this chapter. You have some papers that are due tomorrow. You have your vocabulary evaluation tomorrow as well. Then on Friday, we'll start discussing your diagrams, which you'll be responsible for. And then towards the end of next week, we get on to the class AVES, which is starting to get to be more and more common. Okay? All you have to do to answer that is, as you walk outside, what's one of the first things you might notice besides the temperature being warmer? Especially when it comes to animals. It's not as quiet out there anymore. Why is that? I'm sorry, say that again? Oh, well, yeah. What do you mean by, yeah, they're all coming back. No. Yeah, the birds are, that's what we mean by they're all coming back. Migrating. And has anyone seen a robin yet? Not that that's a clear indication of spring, but sometimes maybe that's how people judge whether spring is going to be here. But typically, you're probably going to hear them before you see them. I mean, sometimes I feel like that's my experiences. You hear them before you see them. Yes. All right. So, again, that does it for this chapter. We'll catch up to you next time.